For Crema Media's Polity, I'm Sane Dhlamini. Researcher and analyst Professor Raymond Suttner joins me to discuss how to restore Parliament's integrity. Morning, Professor.
Morning.
You are arguing that as much as the tactics of parliamentary opposition parties highlighted the failure of President Jacob Zuma of Nkandla and his appearance in Parliament to answer questions in the National Assembly, you're saying now that the time has arrived where we need to account or consider an approach beyond the present paralysis.
Yes. You see, one of the signs of a mature political movement is that they don't just look at the present. They think about what are the long-term consequences of what we are doing now. Now, it's very good, and I think people have been very happy that the opposition used this filibuster, and I think a lot of people are secretly very happy about the chaos in Parliament. And they're even happier that, even though they condemn it, they're even happier that the police came into Parliament because what they see it as doing is showing that the ANC has no respect for the democratic institutions of the country. But being mature in politics means that you must have an appreciation not only for short-term gains, but also for the long-term effects that what you're doing now may have and what you want to see in the long term. And we have to ask ourselves, is it in our interests to see Parliament paralyzed, to have the likelihood that the State of the Nation address next year will descend into chaos? Now, it is true that it is the ANC that is ultimately responsible for causing disrepute of the institutions of the Constitution. The President is obliged to answer questions. He doesn't come and answer questions. He is obliged to respond to the recommendations of the Public Protector, not necessarily to accept them, but he has to respond in good faith and explain his reasons for not accepting or how he will implement them. And we can say the ANC has shown that it has a contempt for the obligations of parliamentarians to hold the executive accountable. But having said that, do we let things just stay in a state of paralysis, or what do we do to try to remedy this? And it seems to me that the opposition parties have to show whether they have the maturity to not get stuck in a groove. Now, even if this groove is embarrassing to the government, is it helpful to South Africa as a democracy to stay in one place? Now, I'm not quite sure how we get out of this, but it seems to me that we may need the assistance of people, mediatory forces, outside of political parties. But it's very important that we as citizens should not just treat Parliament as a new TV station to watch for fun, but that we should actually put pressure on Parliament to restore to Parliament its function as a debating chamber, where it is a place where there's deliberation on the most important issues of the day. And it's a test. It's a test of the ANC, but it's also a test of the EFF and the DA. EFF has still to show that it has a vision. The EFF has shown that it is very good at symbolism, it's very good at disruption, it's very good at breaking the complacency of opposition parties. The EFF has basically transformed the DA in Parliament. But that is not the future. What is the future? Do these opposition parties offer something? And can the ANC help us to get away out of the present deadlock?
But is it not the interest of the EFF and even the DA to make matters worse in Parliament, to cease functioning, or so that President will answer questions?
Well, as I said, it depends on whether you have a vision or you don't have a vision. If you certainly some political gains in the public image of the EFF and the DA have probably been made by the discomfort that they've caused to the ANC. The fact that the president can hardly appear anywhere without getting booed or without there being a disruption in the case of Parliament. The fact that the job of the speaker, I mean, I wouldn't like to be a speaker in or a chair of these sessions. It's obviously a very, very stressful situation. And they have read the rules very carefully, and they are pushing the rules to the limit. So there is a certain comfort zone in holding up the works, in stopping Parliament from functioning. But we've got to ask ourselves, especially in the case of the DA, which is not doesn't depict itself as a disruptive force or as wanting revolutions and all of that. The DA claims to be one of the custodians of democracy. So the DA and the ANC, who brought this constitution primarily in the case of the ANC, they have played a role in giving birth to parliamentary democracy. EFF is participating in parliamentary democracy. It's not said it wants to destroy it. Now, if that is the case, how do we make it into a thriving place of debate? To have continued disruptions is certainly not doing that. And the disruptions, admittedly, have got something to do with the failure of Parliament to play what it is charged with doing under the Constitution, to hold the executive accountable, amongst other things. And I think there's also something rather shocking about the report on Nkandla and the report on EFF disciplinary action. In both of these cases, the parliamentarians from the ANC clearly have lost their democratic imagination. They spent their time bringing points of order and trying to stop the EFF and the DA, but they really didn't offer to the public the image of a party that is committed to the democracy that was bequeathed to them from 1994. You see some people who at one time had a lot of ideas, had very little to do but to try and stop EFF or DA speakers. And I think what we need to ask ourselves is whether we can invoke the involvement of important people of stature outside the party political arena, religious figures, figures from business, other members of civil society who are not biased towards one or other party, who can try to mediate a way out of the present impasse. I believe, much as I initially thought it was very good to put the ANC on the back foot, for minority parties to do that, this can't be, this paralysis, this stopping of functioning can't be a permanent state of affairs. There has to be a way beyond that.
That was Professor Raymond Suttner speaking to Creamer Media's Polity about how to restore Parliament's integrity. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.